legalize marijuana. Arguably 75% of that border violence with Mexico goes away as a result of legalizing marijuana, that being the estimate of the drug cartel's activities, 75% that are engaged in the marijuana trade.
Next call comes from Romulus, Michigan, outside Detroit. Jamie is a Democrat. Go ahead, Jamie. You're on.
Hey, how you doing? Good morning, C-SPAN and Mr. Johnson. I was calling because I have a problem with the Child Protective Services system right now. I was wondering why in Michigan that they targeted the lower income families, and there really isn't any fairness in the court system. How can Mr. Johnson help with that?
You know, Jamie, I don't have the answer as to in this particular if this is a state's if the state is utilizing some discretion in how these funds are being distributed, but I get back to the model that I think that we're going to have to fix Medicaid and Medicare, virtually all existing federal program, and that is going to be to devolve these programs down to the states. What I'm hearing you say is that the state of Michigan has some real issues with Child Protective Services, and I can't speak to those specifically. I will just say, though, that back to the competitive nature of all the states, that if states implement Child Protective Services practices that really are cost effective and everybody's happy, those are going to be practices that get emulated by the other states. Sounds like Michigan may have issues with its Child Protective Services that other states would do well to avoid.
Next is Kissimmee, Florida, and Julio, Republican.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah, my question kind of links both of your guests, the one you had before as well with this one. What do you think of obesity in this country, and what do you think is a good route for the problem to be solved?
Well, I think it's about education. You know, I like the notion that I can read calories on the menu and be able to determine how many calories I'm consuming. I think that goes a long way toward obesity. That you link up. Holy cow! Big Mac fries and a shake is my daily allotment of calories, and shouldn't I be exercising some? So I think education is the main component. I just think that if government starts mandating, starts passing laws relative to calories and health, that what you're going to end up seeing is you're going to end up seeing huge bureaucracies that don't end up making a difference. I was on a talk show the other day advocating that, look, I think government should pass laws requiring restaurants to list their calories. Well, I was thinking of that law in terms of the Gary Johnson law, where the restaurant owner would be able to sit down and in an afternoon with a $12 calorie counting book could reasonably come to some pretty good estimates on what the calorie content was of meals. Well, that would have been the Gary Johnson law, and I think it would have made a huge difference, would not have imposed on business, and would have provided really valuable educational tools to consumers. But then I realized that at a point I would leave office, and because that program would have been so successful, that now there would be new legislation that would require stiffening of calorie counting criteria, that it was going to have to be very accurate, that it was going to have to reflect proteins, carbohydrates, fats in the most accurate way. Point being is that ultimately my calorie counting legislation would lead to the biggest bureaucracy in the federal government. That's what happens. So no, I don't want to propose legislation from government to address obesity, but education is obviously the key.
So just to understand then, the complex food analysis that is required with government regulation on all foods sold in grocery stores, you disagree with that?
No, I do agree with that. I think that is a given, and that it back to education. It's really key to understanding half of the obesity problem, which is your intake. The other half, I think, has to do with exercise.
So that's a good use of government mandates and regulation.
I do believe that, yes.
Next telephone call, Vallejo, California. Lori, Democrat.
Yes, hi. I was wondering, two quick questions. One, are you for or against gay marriage? And two, if you were president, would you do anything about the non-treatment or under-treatment of the mentally ill?
Well, first of all, yes, I do support marriage equality, and I know that that's been in the news here the last couple of days. I think that President Obama's position effectively doesn't change marriage equality in this country by leaving it up to the states. I think it is a constitutionally guaranteed right, and that the federal government should be dealing with that. So that's marriage equality. Talking about the mentally ill, I come back to what we're going to have to devolve to in this country regarding health care, in my opinion, to make it work, and that is going to be devolving health care to the states, not mandated from the federal government. That has us in the predicament that we're in, which is we're borrowing and printing money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we're spending. If we don't fix our spending, we're going to find ourselves without any health care at all from the government, and for that matter, we're not going to be able to garner health care for ourselves with a collapsed U.S. dollar, a collapsed government, which will be the result of continuing to borrow and spend what we're doing.
Last call for Governor Johnson is from Roseau, Minnesota. Clifford, Republican there. You're on, Clifford.
Good morning. You know, one thing I want to find out, and I've never heard mentioned under the fair tax, is that people that are retired and spending their savings will have to pay tax on their money the second time. I never hear that mentioned in the discussion on fair tax. Thank you.
Well, first off, retired, you're still going to have to file with the IRS, so that goes away. For those that are on deferred retirement, meaning having saved money and with it later going to be subject to tax, of course that would go away. There also is the notion that this is cost neutral over a very short amount of time. So it's not that you're going to be having to spend more money on these items. So I think when you add all this up, that it gets back to the notion of fair, that this is a fair way of rebooting the American economy, if you will, and going forward, that we really will benefit from the added jobs that will get added with no corporate income tax, and that our exports become 23% more competitive. So I don't know if it's as big an issue as some would say. It only applies to new goods and services. It's not a compounded tax, so for the home builder that's building a home, everything would be tax exempt up to the point of sale, and that would also apply to businesses. Any goods or service used in the final production of a good is not going to be taxed in this. So I think we'll find the opposite occur, that this really will stimulate the U.S. economy.
Governor Johnson is on Twitter. You can follow him at Governor Gary Johnson, and there is a much fuller discussion of his campaign for president and his principles on the website, GaryJohnson2012.com. Governor Johnson, thanks so much for being on C-SPAN this morning and taking our viewers' questions. We appreciate it.
Well, great being on, and I'm glad. I wish the sound would have been that way the whole time, but anyway, it worked out fine. Thank you very much.
I'm so sorry. I'm glad we got it fixed for you. Please come back.